Today we're going to talk about what does it really take for you to find the deals you're looking for, to find the money you're looking for in your real estate investing business. And we have with us Jesse Martin. Jesse is a certified trainer of NLP, a sales coach. You've been doing the business for over 7 years. We're going to be talking about the psychology of sales. Jesse, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Maybe you want to start out by just sharing a few of the things that our audience should know about you, and just to get to know you a bit.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Well, you already shared my credentials, right? But what really matters is not, what I'm certified in and this or that. What really matters is, I would say, more of my background that I think is interesting. I actually am probably the last guy you would ever think is in sales or would teach. I do public speaking and stuff like this now. And, honestly, I was that introverted kid growing up. I was the guy that had 3 friends in high school and didn't really talk to anyone else, and always had a passion for psychology and understanding why people thought the way they did and acted the way they did. And that's what led me down this path to first understand people, human beings, and then understand business. And then it led me to understanding sales, because that's the key thing that makes or breaks a business.
Yeah, and you and I met maybe 2 years ago, I think it was. It was actually at a conference where it was a workshop, and it had to do with being able to feel more comfortable in presenting and getting our message out to the public. And I know at that time already you had some a huge amount of training and experience, and done a lot of workshops. And so with that, I can only imagine what it takes, the amount of, study and research to understand how the mind really works.
Yeah.
So was it through, I know you did some coaching, you did some reading. Was there anything in particular that stuck out in that?
Yeah, definitely. It's funny. Sales and sales training and coaching and all this type of stuff that I first experienced myself, got training and coaching. What I've realized is it's almost the opposite of the way people think it works. This applies to sales, it applies to relationships, and applies to many, many things like that, where most people think it works one way, and it's almost always the counterintuitive that actually makes the difference. And it really, really was surprising. For example, in sales, most people think you got to be suave or smooth or charismatic or super outgoing. And honestly, it's almost the opposite that makes effective selling. Yes, that can help just a little bit, but that's not the thing that makes a difference. That's what really surprised me.
Wow. Yeah, that is really an interesting revelation, I guess I would call it. So today we're going to be talking about 3 different things that we can do to achieve that, to get into that place where we're able to get comfortable with enrolling people in our ideas, whether it's in investing with us, putting money in deals, or finding deals, whatever it might be. And I know this is a case for me, and I can imagine for the listeners too, that when we hear the word sales or selling, it almost makes one cringe. And you've got three different things, and the last of the 3 I think will surprise our audience. But let's just start out with maybe the first one of those 3 that can take us from the space of cringing or feeling like, ooh, I don't want to be that type of a person, to where we really can engage and be and almost enjoy that process. What is the first of those 3?
Yeah, like you said, Tom, we were talking a little bit earlier, and these are the 3 key things that really make sales not a chore or something that makes you cringe, but instead makes it something that's truly enjoyable. Most people think of sales and their experience with sales is, maybe they had to go buy a car and some guy was trying to push them into some car they don't want or don't need. And you felt that pressure and this weird obligation, and you just wanted to run. Well, I had many of those experiences, and that's what inspired me to actually teach this in a more effective way, because I had to learn and reverse engineer what I was doing to sell without doing that crap, because all that stuff really leaves a bad taste in people's mouths. And so there are three things, I'll share the first one right here. And this is really the power of relationships. Because if you go into a sales situation trying to sell with the intention of getting and taking, this is not building relationships. This is trying to, manipulate. This is trying to get something from someone. And instead, if you go into a sales situation or a potential situation where you could make a deal and think relationship first, it's going to really create some magic in your life.
And what the way I look at it is, and tell me if this is the right way, I like the idea of going in, really creating that relationship first, creating that rapport, and understanding what it is that the other person is looking, what are their goals, what are they trying to achieve, what are they aiming for, and go from the point of being there and available rather than thinking, what can I get from it?
Yeah, you're so right, Tom, because, if you go into it with the old, using rapport as a technique and tactic, well, that's not really building a relationship, is it? A lot of sales, it's been around since the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, these old techniques of ABC, always be closing, that's not focused on relationship at all. And what happens is someone feels that you're inauthentic and ungenuine, and they may buy from you, maybe, if you're lucky, maybe you can convince them or bully them into it, but you're not building a relationship and you'll never get a referral. And that's what successful salespeople and investors, and especially in real estate, who do people always use as their agent or as their investor? Someone they know and they trust, not the guy who has the fastest or the best pitch.
Right. And so maybe could you just describe, you're going to be you're working with a group of real estate agents and brokers in San Diego right now, which you just shared with me before the show. And NLP is something that we talk about. You and I have talked about that in the past quite a bit. And can you describe what NLP is for our listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. So NLP, first of all, it stands for neuro linguistic programming. And honestly, it's just a confusing way of saying effective communication and effective psychology.
Okay.
This was designed, by two people, John Grinder and Richard Bandler, and they just wanted to study what worked, what created success for people, and what is effective communication and effective psychology, and how to engineer this so you can actually use it to either change from a place of anxiety and fear to confidence, or, insecurity to, lack of insecurity.
Yeah.
How to actually use this. So a usable set of tools to achieve these states.
Okay, that's great. That helps with the context. So our first one is really understanding the value of relationships. What's the second one?
Yeah, and the second one is give first. I already hinted at this, right? So when you go into a situation where, here's the tricky thing is, you want something from the person, right? If doesn't matter what kind of sales, you're insurance or real estate or, solar sales or something like that, you go door to door or you set up a client meeting. Of course, if you're the person that wants to either get investment money or get the listing deal or find the investment money from this person, yes, of course you want something. And it's very, very tricky. This is why this is so important, that even though you want something, you have to remove that from your mind and not try to get it. Okay? Because if you go into the situation, into the meeting, trying to get, you're going to repel the person. Just think for a second, and I want all of you out there to listen to this. Think for a second what it feels like when you go into a situation and you can tell the person is trying to get the sale from you. He's smiling, she might be smiling, charismatic, but that's not what you really feel. What you feel is their intention. Okay? Now switch that to you. If you go into a situation and you want something, it's okay to want something, but if you go in trying to get, the other person is going to feel like a repellent feeling.
I can imagine.
Yeah. And have you experienced this, Tom?
Absolutely.
You've been in real estate a while.
Absolutely. And the way I look at it is to imagine, how would I want to be approached? And if I feel kind of like cringing when somebody has that approach, then I know that that's not something I want to do. And so the key there is to fill in the gap with things that we do want to do. And what you just shared with number two is giving first. And, yeah, I can see where that really is a valuable piece.
Yeah. And when you give, this doesn't mean you have to give them money or give them a gift, right? Those are called bribes. What I'm talking
Hmm.
about giving is giving your energy, giving your presence, maybe giving a referral. You go into a situation not trying to pitch or sell or close the person on the first meeting, especially, but go into building that relationship first, that foundation, and the intention of giving something of value. That is usually a referral or a connection to someone else. Okay. And I learned this from my business partner. And when I started doing this, my business really transformed. Because when you go into a situation to give, the person will love having you around and they're going to want to give and have reciprocity.
And it just makes the whole dynamics of the conversation, the dynamics of the relationship, it changes everything to the point where it's so much more relaxed, so much it's less stress. It just I do these monthly meetup um, real estate investment club meetings here in San Jose, and at, at those we always have the gives and wants session. We also have the networking time. And if there's one thing I've learned from that over the last 7 years that I've been putting them on, is the value of giving back, the value of coming from the abundance mindset of really sharing and not being afraid that somebody else is going to get ahead, but really get everybody to work together. I mean, there's so much power in giving. And I know that in this case, we're talking about giving, whether it's, just coming from the place of abundance rather than expecting something and taking something from it.
Oh, that's such a good point, Tom. And we talked a little bit about those beliefs and that abundance or scarcity mindset in the last time we did this
Hmm.
interview. And those beliefs, whatever you enter into a situation of, hey, do you believe that like money is scarce? Do you believe the housing market is scarce and you have to get and take because someone else is going to take if you don't take? Well, what that turns us into is wild animals, right? And then it doesn't work out for anyone. And so if you
Yeah.
switch that to an abundance mindset, it's powerful.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we have the value and the power of relationships. We have as number one. Number two is to give first, to be there, to be present, and not expect something. What now is the most important point?
Now, number three, this is one of those things that seems very counterintuitive. And that is you attract people that are just like you deep down. And I'm not talking about the surface. So that mindset that you have, scarcity, if you go into this situation, you'll attract scarcity minded people. If you have a fear based or I'm going to manipulate or trick someone into a sale, you will attract people just like that. I've been in real estate my whole life. I used to fix up and flip houses. You know, I used to see some of these guys that would have some old, basically what we call a dump, right? And or a POS. I'm not going to explain that one, but you can guess, right? And
Right.
you have this house and you might call it a lemon, right? And I've seen these guys that they try to unload it. They're like, "Oh, this great deal. It's going to be amazing. You just fix it up." And they know the foundation is shot. What's that going to attract? That person's going to get ripped off because they're trying to rip someone else off. And so if
Uh,
you flip that into the positive, is you attract people who are like you. Make sense?
so for the analytical type, like I am sometimes accused of being, what is the logic behind that? Is there logic, or is it just, I mean, and you said at a much deeper level, we
Mm-hmm.
attract what we are. And
Yeah.
what can you give some clarity as how that connection happens?
Definitely. No, that's such a good question. I love those analytical questions too, because I always want to know why things work and how they work. And
Hmm.
so, how this works is, on the surface, the common knowledge is opposites attract. People say that about relationships. Well, the truth is, opposites don't attract. What actually attracts is like attracts like. Okay. This is true everywhere in nature except for magnets, maybe, right? Which is, the opposite polarities. But what it is in relationships is a vibration or wavelength. Okay. If you study quantum physics, for the analytical types out there, quantum physics is, frequency, vibration. Okay. When you have two conflicting frequencies, it's dissonance. Okay. But when you have the same frequency, this is true in music, it's true in vibration, and our emotions are frequencies and vibrations. And you could call this the law of attraction, you could call it the secret, but you attract, or more likely you kind of, I would say, just notice people that are like you. It's like the glasses you wear.
Okay, that makes sense. It's like the car that's driving down the road that you never saw before, but as soon as you get one, everybody has one.
That's actually the perfect example. And, for the people out there listening, you can just imagine, think of your first car that you really wanted to get. You were so excited. And the second you bought it or decided you're going to get it, you're like, wait, everyone has this car. I thought it was so unique.
Right, right.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. And so this is so important when it comes to real estate investing, sales, finding deals, finding money. For example, if you have a scarcity mindset and you're kind of scared of the economy and you're always talking about watching the news and telling all your friends and posting on social media about how the economy is bad, and then you go try to get money, and notice what I said, get money from an investor. What do you think that's going to happen to that investor who has money? He's going to
Yeah.
run the other way.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, no, that reminds me of the whole concept of when you said get, it's almost feels like a force.
That's right.
And I always look at it from, are we there? Are we able to attract what we're aiming to get or what we're aiming for? Or are we going to try and force our way to get it?
That's right.
And I think that's where some of this comes in, is that it's putting ourselves in the right mind space, especially in the right mind space and the right way of interaction with people, so that it attracts rather than us needing to ask for it or needing to expect it, or being frustrated when it doesn't happen just the way we want it to happen, right?
Such a good point. Yeah, exactly. And if you'd like, I can give 2 points of actually how to switch this so you attract better people. Would that be
Great,
useful?
great, absolutely.
So, the number one thing that switches, your environment, I talked about vibration or frequency. All that means is, the type of person that you're around. Okay. You ever heard of like birds of a feather flock together, right?
Yeah.
So the number one thing is the people that you spend your time with. If you're spending your time around the negative Nancy's and the, Debbie Downers, and, this isn't just female, right? This is guys, women, people, human beings. If you spend your time around negative people, you will end up being very negative. So upgrade your social circle and start to find people that inspire you, and don't go in there taking, go in there to add value and build those relationships with people that you want to be like, that you admire. Okay. This is huge because who you hang out with is going to affect you and how you think. And number two is the words that you use, because the words that you say create thoughts and feelings and pictures in your mind. And that is who you're going to attract. So if you talk about the bad economy, even if it's a bad economy, by always hounding on it and talking about it and complaining about it, it only makes it worse. And you're going to find other complainers.
I absolutely agree with. I mean, I've experienced both of those so much firsthand. So those are really helpful, and that's I appreciate the fact that we have tips now that we can actually specific things that we can do. So number one is really upgrade our social circle to be with the people, spend time with the people that we're aiming, that we're aspiring to be. That's what I'm understanding?
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Okay. And then number two is being really careful of the words that we use. And I would extend it to kind of what you said, the news that we watch, our mindset of how we are on a daily basis. If we're in the negative mindset all the time, it's hard not to continuously attract more negativity in our lives. So
You're so right.
really, really powerful points. And so we have the 3 points again. So those two tips of what we can do, but we also have the what were they? The power of relationship, the value of relationships, meaning to share. It doesn't have to be giving a gift. It's giving maybe connections or contacts or whatever it might be. And then we attract who we are. So with that, any last bits of information? I know I want to be able to give listeners a chance to reach out to you if they have any questions, any comments.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Tom. First of all, thanks for having me. I mean, it's a lot of fun. I always love talking to you, and our conversations are inspiring. Like we're talking about, who you spend your time with is going to really raise your mindset and your emotions, and you'll start having more success as well. So I appreciate that. And,
Absolutely.
if someone wants to learn more about this, I actually have a gift for you. And this is really like a checkup. Okay. This is a mental and sales checkup for you personally. This is just a gift for listeners. Okay. I'll just give you 15 minutes of my time just to see if and how I may be able to help. If not, no problem. I can point you in the right direction, recommend a book or two. And you can simply go to my website, coachjessemartin.com/apply. And there's just a little calendar booking. So I'm
Wow.
sure we can put that in the show notes, but it's coachjessemartin.com/apply.
Great. Great. Thank you. Thank you for that generous offer. And we'll put those in the show notes too. So you'll have them. Excellent. Well, really appreciate you taking the time again, Jesse. So let me just ask you one last question. And that is, I would say you get the last word. What's the one key point people need to remember from everything we've talked about?
The one key point is feel good now. Change your mindset and your emotions, whatever you have to do, whether that means go for a walk, spend time with people you love, listen to your favorite music. And when you change how you feel, it's going to affect every little thing you do.
Great. Thank you, Jesse.
Thanks, Tom.